Okay, I might get started. So look, again, welcome to May's quarterly training session. I'm Sue, Head of Customer Success at Trendspek, and I'm joined today by Josh, our Head of Product. I'm sure many of you have met him already. So look, thanks for registering and attending. We're really excited to be here, and we have lots in store for you today. So I just might add quickly, we do have a fair few sort of new users who have registered and tuned in to watch this. So a quick intro of how we sort of run this short, sharp 30-minute session. As users of Trendspek, our goal is really to make sure that you and your teams are fully trained in the platform. Whilst the platform is super intuitive, there's so much you can do. So just depending on what stage of the life cycle, asset life cycle management that you're in, obviously there's so many things to do. So these sessions are really there to give you some visualized, personalized training. And we're happy for you to reach out to let us know if there's anything specific that you want to see. So please feel free to add in the chat as well. Don't forget to fill out the poll as well. That'd be really helpful for us to also know for the future. So what I'll just move to is our agenda today, and really it's really about getting back to basics. A lot of our users access their models, make annotations, but actually you can really streamline your way of working and standardize your use of templates. So that's a real key feature that we're going to focus on today. We have made a bit of an uplift of that, so Josh will do a walkthrough of that, but it is really a way to streamline your data, whether it's at the inspection level or through to your remediation project. Just setting up those streamlined, customized sort of templates is key. So we thought it'd be a really good opportunity to take you through that today. Again, as I've mentioned, obviously there's a lot that you can do, but today what Josh is also going to take you through is how to be that power user and show you that typical journey of how you could efficiently use Trendspek, work systematically, and centralize all of your asset, defect, and performance data. So as I mentioned, just along the way, please feel free to drop in any questions that you might have in the chat, and we'll answer them in the Q&A later during the session. So I'll hand over to you, Josh, now.
Great, thanks, Sue. I'll just switch up our stream. There we go. You should be able to see my Trendspek dashboard now. So yeah, welcome to the live demo component of Trendspek's May training session. As Sue already mentioned, today we're going to take a look at creating advanced templates. So using multiple tab groups, making the most of our latest field types, such as user assignment and date fields. And once we've done that, we'll also review the inspect page before finishing up on the reporting page to look at how we can actually use those templates to deliver upon reporting outcomes. So we're going to start by heading to the template builder. Now, if you don't see templates on the left-hand side here, you'll have to contact your account admin or Trendspek support in order to gain access or sufficient permission to access the template builder. So within templates, we're going to go today to the template manager here. And this is where we can create those custom templates using the Trendspek template builder. So we're going to click on create template to start a new template from scratch. And what we noticed over the sort of last year and a bit since introducing templates is that the templates our users were building were just getting more and more complicated, containing more and more fields. So what we did was introduce tab groups to allow us to split those templates down into multiple manageable tabs. So you can organize your large templates into structured tabs, enabling you to collect even more data whilst maintaining a structured format within the Trendspek system. So we'll make a generic sort of concrete inspection template today, and we need to start by giving this a name. So let's just say concrete demo live, and we also need to give it a description. So, this is a demo template used in our webinar. So now that we've done that, I thought we'd start by, from the outset, we're going to set up our tabs. So I have a pretty clear vision as to what this template is going to look like. However, your ideal template may differ based on the type of work you do, the organization, but ultimately the outcome that you want to achieve. So I'm going to add my first tab to the template. We'll call this first one the defect overview tab and click save. You can see that that's added a tab here. And then we'll add a second tab called condition and defect details. And then finally, the third tab, we'll call this one risk and outcomes, and click save. So we've now set up our 3 tab groups. In the template builder here, they look like these group fields, but when we actually get to the annotation panel later on the inspect page, you'll see that it essentially structures the data in tabs on the annotation panel. So now that we've set up those tabs, we can start adding fields. The first field that we're going to add just by clicking add new template field is going to be called defect description. Not typing, defect description. And we can give this an optional description as well. So just a description about the information that this field is meant to collect. So this could be a brief description of inspection location / element data. And the type for this one is going to be a short text field, and we'll then click save. You'll notice that by default, it appears outside of the group. So we then just need to drag it to the desired tab group. In this case, I want the defect description field to be contained within the defect overview tab. The next field we're going to add is going to use our URL field type. So this will request a URL input, and we're going to use this one to link the Trendspek defect to an existing system such as SAP or Maximo. So let's call this one asset link and give it a description such as link to existing system such as SAP or Maximo. And we'll click save and then drag that to the defect overview tab group. Next up, we are going to add a severity rating field. So we'll just call this one severity rating and description. I'm going to use 1 through to 5 as the sort of allowed values to this. So just to help explain what that means, I might put, 1 means minor and 5 means severe. Then the type for this one is going to be a single select field. Now, then we've got an option here to allow user-defined values. So this is basically whether or not you want users to input values other than the ones you specify. For something like a severity rating, we generally want this to be no. We only want them to be able to choose 1 through to 5. And then we'll add our possible options, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 before clicking save. And we'll drag this particular one into the condition and defect details tab. And then we'll move on to the third tab here. So all of these fields that I've added to my template thus far have been local fields. What that means is they belong to this template and this template only. At Trendspek, we also have the concept of global fields, which allows you to reuse certain fields across many different templates. You might want to use this to standardize, how you report on risk across your multiple templates used across, a diverse asset portfolio. So instead of adding a new template field directly to this particular template, we can actually add a field from our library. In this case, I've already set up a global field called risk, and we can just add that selected field. And that's now available in our template, and we can drag it to the desired tab group. So I'll just add a couple more fields before switching to a template that I prepared earlier so that we don't have to sit here for too long going through the template building process. So the next local field type that I'm going to add is actually a user assignment field, which you'll see down the bottom here. And we'll give this one a name. Let's call it notify structural engineer. And the description could be tag an engineer to review serious concerns. And the user field type is selected, and then we can choose whether we want to allow this to be assignable to more than one user, and then click save. And again, just dragging and dropping that before we add our final field type for this particular demo. So we're going to click add new field type, and the name for this one will be next inspection due date. And this is sort of the suggested re-inspection based on risk and other factors. And the type for this one is actually going to be a date field. So this will request a date input from our users. Clicking save, and then just dragging and dropping that to where we want it. So as I said before, I am going to switch to a more complete template. This is just a quick look at how to set up those tab groups and add various different field types. But if you want to save this and add it to your template library, you just click Save Template. And then back on the templates page here, you'll see the template that we just created up the top here, 28th of the 5th. And then the template that I prepared earlier, which I created yesterday. So we can click on Edit here to be taken back to the template builder with this existing template ready to be added to, edited, whatever changes you need to make, or just even reviewed. So we can see that we've got those same 3 tab groups that we created on our template earlier with several additional fields. And we'll go into sort of the use of each of these fields on the inspect page in a moment. I just wanted to show you what this page looked like when it was populated with additional data. So now that we've set up our template, we've got our concrete inspection demo template. We're going to go back to the dashboard and head over to the inspect page for one of our demo assets. So clicking on visit, this will take us to the inspect page with the freestanding reservoir model in front of us. So one thing that was mentioned in one of our previous training sessions is that we often gloss over this right-hand menu here. So we thought we'd just sort of take the opportunity to quickly walk through your available options in this particular menu. So the first one up the top switches you between 2D and 3D. So Trendspek, whilst primarily a 3D platform, does actually have a 2D mode, which can be enabled with that toggle there. And whilst in that mode, you'll notice that there's no perspective to the model, and the navigation is different as well. You're in that sort of fixed top-down view. Probably not too useful on a site like this, but on a large warehouse or a large oil and gas plant, it can be really quite useful to help navigate roof structures and that sort of asset. So the next is a reset camera option. So if you ever find yourself lost on the viewer, maybe you scrolled out too far, just clicking that reset button will fly you back to a familiar view. Then we've got our full screen button, which will enter full screen mode, and then our settings options. So there's a few settings here. The first one is fly between. This defaults to on, and it basically controls whether or not when you open an annotation, if Trendspek automatically flies you to that annotation. Most people like this on. Some people can find it disruptive, so you can just turn it off and on as needed in the settings here. Collision detection controls whether or not you can zoom through the asset. So by default, you can't, you sort of run into the asset and hit a hard stop. If you turn that off, you can zoom even closer and even through the asset. So that obviously defaults to on. We've then got labels, so you can toggle on labels for all of your drawings. Then got our cameras toggle. So this will toggle on a camera prism for every single image that was used to reconstruct this model. And you can actually click on those images to bring up, you can actually click on those camera prisms to bring up the image associated to it. So it's just another way to sort of navigate that imagery or understand the capture and find areas that were captured in super close detail and that sort of thing. The next setting is our obstructed drawing visibility. So you'll notice that when we're looking at a site like this, we can actually see drawings on the other side of the asset. That's controlled by the obstructed drawing visibility, and you can turn that right up to 100% or even down to 0%. The issue with 0% is that it can mean that, sometimes drawings that you want to be able to see are not visible just due to how they were placed on the asset. They may fall behind this pipe, for example, whereas in this view, you'd actually expect to be able to see it. So we default that to 20% and generally leave recommending it there. Generally recommend leaving it there. Then the last option in the settings here is just about our base map. So it will default to aerial, but you can also change that to a basic vector map or a dark mode map, or turn it off altogether. So it really depends on the site as to what you would like to use there. But yeah, you can toggle that here and it will sort of save for your current session. The next option here is a screenshot tool. So you can generate high resolution screenshots of your asset using this tool. So you can choose whether you want to generate those in 3D or 2D. You can then upscale the resolution. So it will actually generate the screenshot at 3 times your current screen resolution. And then you can also flatten it to take out all that perspective if you want. And just clicking capture will download that screenshot to your computer. We've then got our clipping box tool, which is a little too intricate to go into detail today, but it essentially allows you to temporarily clip sections of the model. And we can send an article out after this describing how to use that particular feature. So I'll just remove that. And then the final tool here today to talk about today is our side-by-side synced pane. So this allows you to open up a second viewer in side-by-side mode. And these viewers are calibrated to one another. So it allows you to view, 2 different time periods against one another, or compare reality to the design model. It's got many different use cases. However, this is sort of the most common one. And once we're done, we can just click that to toggle it off. Okay, so before we actually look at creating an annotation, which most of the people on this call are actually familiar with, what we wanted to do was sort of call out the folder system in the annotation list on the left-hand side here. So you'll see that this original inspection was done back in 2023, and it's been put into a 2023 inspection folder. Within that folder, we've broken down the annotations into different defect types. So we've got bug holes, cracks, honeycombing, miscellaneous, and several more. What we sort of recommend as a best practice is whenever you're starting a new inspection, start a new folder. So we can just right click, create new folder. And let's call this one 2025 inspection. And sort of a power user tip here is if you right click this folder and choose select folder, you'll notice that goes red. What that means is that all of the annotations that we now create will automatically land in that folder. So it just, again, streamlines that workflow, enabling you to, meaning that you don't have to go drag and drop it later on. It will just be where it needs to be. And if you want to nest folders, you just right click again and add folders within it. You can nest those folders as deeply as needed. So it's very flexible and allows you to structure vast amounts of data in a meaningful way. So we can close the annotation list even with that folder selected. That will sort of persist. And what we might quickly do is just create a sample annotation. We might do that on this defect here. This is a spool defect. And we're going to right click the model, start drawing to place a pin. And depending on what it is you're drawing, you can draw pins, lines, or polygons. So I'm going to right click again to turn that into a line. And we'll continue right clicking to sort of outline this particular defect. Now, if you want to refine that, just simply right click and drag a point until you're happy with it. So we might want to hone that in there. And once we're happy with that, we can click on finish and click on create. So this drawing is now saved for the model, and this annotation panel is open, ready for us to start inputting data. So we can give this a name. It could be something as simple as spool, or this particular asset has a bit of a naming convention. So we might call it, our first spool observation, SP001. So the overview tab, most of you will be familiar with. It's where you'll find your measurement details as well as your annotation deep link, which we'll touch on later. It's also where you'll see the visual component of the annotation. So each annotation has a featured image associated to it, as well as a supporting image associated to it. These are two image types that are included in your reporting outputs later on, and you can customize those, crop them, upload custom images, depending on the reporting outcome that you desire. By default, it's set to one of the drone images, as well as a screenshot of the model taken at the time of annotation creation. The drawings tab allows us to update this drawing. So, we might want to turn the pins off and, maybe make it red, and that all auto saves. And then the most important tab for today's demo is this data tab. So this is where we can actually use that template that we created earlier. So clicking assign, I'll choose the concrete inspection demo template and apply it. You can now see the three tabs that we set up: the defect overview tab, the condition and defect details tab, and the risk and actions tab. So we'll start on the defect overview tab, and we'll just give this a description. Major spall in column. Date of inspection, we'll leave that as today. The element column, the asset link, I don't have it handy, but if you had an external database or an external asset management system, you could link to it directly here. And once a valid URL is in that field, you'll have a clickable open button here. Inspection method, we'll say visual, and inspector, I'll set to one of my colleagues. We can then move on to the condition and defect details. So we'll go to defect type, set that to spalling. Exposure conditions, we'll put this as external. And severity, considering the location of this, let's call this a 5. And then that leaves us with the risk and actions tab, where we can set our risk rating. Something like this, maybe we'd set it as immediate action required. Disclaimer, I'm not an engineer, but it looks pretty serious. Structural concern, let's say yes. And recommended action, we're going to go with a patch repair. We also need ongoing monitoring, and we want an engineer to review this particular defect. You could then put in an estimated cost of repair. Maybe we said $40,000. And you could add additional notes and observations. And then we've also got a user assignment field here for our notify structural engineer. So this one we might set to myself, but this is where you could tag or choose an engineer that you had within your Trendspek account. And before we save it, I'm just going to click next inspection date, and we're going to re-inspect this in a year's time. So I'll now click save. And before we go on to the reporting page, I just wanted to sort of elaborate on this user field type, because it's really quite powerful, and sort of the opportunities are endless. So by tagging myself in that field there, I've actually received an email. I'm just going to bring that up. There we go. So I've just received this email in my inbox saying that I've been mentioned in this particular annotation on freestanding reservoir. This is the annotation name. And within that email, I've got a link here, which if I follow, will take me directly into my Trendspek account to this particular asset with this annotation open, with all of the context I could possibly need to, make additional comments about this particular defect. So depending on your template, you might capture that information in an additional tab of your template. You could have like an engineer's comments tab, or you could use the Trendspek discussion. So you could actually collaborate at the discussions level with your engineer directly within the Trendspek annotation panel. So I just wanted to call out that user field type because it really is quite powerful, and it opens up a world of possibilities in terms of how you collaborate with users throughout the asset lifecycle. Different professions, colleagues, anyone really that has some sort of interest in the asset could potentially benefit from the user field type that we've introduced. So the final part of today's demo is going to be on the reporting page here, and just conscious of time, we will be quick here. So the reporting page is a spreadsheet style view of all of that annotation data that's been generated. And the main thing we want to bring your attention to here today is the ability to filter this data. So you've got all of your columns here. We've got 48 annotations here by default. However, I may only want to, let's say, for example, the risk rating. I only want to see annotations where the risk rating is set to immediate action required. But not only that, I also only want to see annotations if the structural concern has been, let me just go back to the reporting page. I accidentally right-clicked and slipped with my mouse and went back a page. Okay, so we're back on the reporting.
We do have a couple of, yeah, sorry. I'll let you get through this bit.
Back on the reporting page now, and we're going to apply those filters. So we'll go over to the risk rating, set that to immediate action required, click apply. And then we're also going to go structural concerns. We only want those that are set to yes. So we've narrowed that down to 5 annotations from 48. Those 48 annotations in reality could be 500 or 5,000 annotations. We've narrowed it down to the 5 that require immediate attention and of structural concern. So you can generate targeted reports by leveraging this filter system and then clicking on generate PDF or export to CSV. All of this annotation data is also available via our API if you wanted to pull it into existing systems or build out custom integrations. So that's a really quick look at creating advanced templates, using those templates on the inspect page, as well as using the folder system on the inspect page, and then generating filtered reports by applying filters on the reporting page. On that note, I'll hand back to Sue for our wrap up and Q&A.
Thank you. We've got 2 minutes for questions and answers. So we'll get through maybe a couple of these, and then I think what we'll have to do is respond after today's session by email. But we've got Tiago, thank you, Tiago, providing some feedback on how great the clipping sort of functionality is. Just to sort of add to that, the clipping tool is actually going to be really helpful also. In addition to that, we're going to be allowing a feature that we're updating that's going to be available in August, is to also be able to provide certain users and invite perhaps contractors to come in and just have a look at isolated views of your asset. It's going to be called Project Views, and it's actually on the roadmap, and the team are doing some really great work on that at the moment, so that's going to be exciting. Joshua, might put this over to you. So Paolo's asked for the side-by-side performance monitoring, trend review monitoring for your assets. With the side-by-side sort of viewer, can you make the markups from the main model appear aligned and calibrated on the other data set too?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've got it here, so I may as well pull it up. So you can't do it in the side-by-side viewer, but in this main viewer with the layers, you can essentially achieve the same outcome. So we're looking at the defects here on the 2019 model. We can then turn on the 2024 model and turn off the 2019 model to see those defects in relation to the newer updated model. So I think that answers your question, but yeah, you can compare those defects on the newer captures if needed. Excellent.
Thanks a lot, Josh. What we'll do is just respond back to some of the other questions that we've got in the chat. Thanks very much for adding those. This one's quite important, so I thought I'd quickly take the last minute. So basically, our help center is available. As you can see on the screen, the little widget that you'll find in your platform, it's a little orange widget on the right-hand side. You can provide feedback. You can actually go through all of our knowledge center as well that has lots of articles on each of our features. We have an in-app chat as well to help answer any questions, and that comes straight through to our team. And obviously, we're here to support you using that support email address, or you can reach out to myself and Josh. I just want to take a few seconds to say thank you for attending and for posting your questions. This session is only as good as the engagement that we have with our users. So we've really enjoyed it, and we hope you found it useful. And again, thanks for joining. We'll share some answers to these questions later today.